Thank you for joining us again. Today's guest is a dear friend of mine, and I have known him many, many years. And I'm so grateful that he would set aside time today. He's busy. He's running for sheriff of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, but he is with us for a couple of moments. I want to find out his take on incarceration and education in incarceration. And do people change at all? Or as a sheriff, we're an employee for a sheriff's department for many, many years. Has he lost all hope in humanity? So stay tuned. You're going to really enjoy our talk. Mike Bornman, thank you so much for making time to be with us today.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, you have maybe up to 1 million incarcerated individuals who have the opportunity to watch this. So 1,500, 1,700 prisons or jails have GOGI on their tablets. So they're going to be able to see this. And in addition to that, we are going to upload this to our podcast on all sorts of podcast places and our YouTube channel. My question is, with regard to the incarcerated, certainly as an employee of the Sheriff's Department, you've made many arrests. I met you at CRDF. What is your take on detention, incarceration, and is there any hope for somebody who keeps coming through that receiving door over and over again? What are your thoughts?
I think there's hope for anybody that comes through the system, but to have hope, they have to take some kind of positive action. I would tell people that are in custody now that what they need to do is that they need to actually learn something. And I'm not talking about checkers or pumping iron. I'm talking about self-help, taking care of yourself inside. A lot of folks over the years, I've noticed what they'll do is they'll come in and they're just victims of themselves. They keep making the same bad decisions, the same mistakes, ending up with the same crowd, ending up in the same jail. And I think that it's important that they reach inside themselves and figure out where they want to be. I think that people, you get one turn around this rock and you don't want to mess it up by spending half your life in jail. What I would hope, and that's what I like about the GOGI program, frankly, is it gets people's mindset right, where they can actually figure out that they're basically their own worst enemy when it comes to committing crime sometime. And I would like to see, we can talk about more programming in the jail in a minute, but I think that what I'd like to see first is people to get their minds straight, wrap around the fact that you have to take possession of your mistakes. You have to understand that a lot of what's happened to you, some of it's upbringing, but some of it's the same choices you make in life. And a lot of them aren't always the best choices.
Captain Mike, because that's what I know you as, captain at the Sheriff's Department in the education-based incarceration. And I worked with you for a long time and have known you a long time. What is the reason why someone wants to change but keeps making those same mistakes? Is it a self-loathing? Do they not think they can? Are they not getting enough support? What is that kind of secret sauce that has to happen? Is it something within?
It's all of the above, what you just mentioned. I think that, I think it's actually lack of understanding what your decision making is all about. And I think that, you're a product of your environment, right, to some degree. And if all your buddies are gangsters, well, hey, I'm a gangster too, right? You have to break out of that. You really have to think about what you want to do in life. Do you want a family? Do you want to be free? Do you want to have a good paying job and live the dream? Or do you want to sit in a box for most of your life?
Well, you grew up in Pacoima. You did not have a silver spoon. You didn't, and there were many traumas in your youth that you had to overcome. So people looking at you now and you're Captain Mike and you're running for sheriff, they may not know the trauma you experienced and the obstacles you had to overcome. You talk with authority. Oh, all you got to do is make better decisions. But you had to actually do that. You weren't immune to what living in Pacoima was like. You were not immune to fractured families and things. Talk to me a moment about how did you get your mind right to say, I don't want to be like those people I'm seeing. I need to be different. What went through your mind?
I think for me, the biggest thing is self-evaluation. Even when I was a kid, we're talking 8 to 12 years old when I was in the projects. I knew that I didn't want to live like a lot of the folks were living, one scandalous event after another. And for me, education was a way out. And, I just wrapped myself around things that I enjoyed in school, which fortunately for me, it was, English and writing and reading and being a good citizen. I've learned something from everybody I've ever dealt with in my life, including you, where I will take something off of everyone, the good or the bad or the indifferent. Like, someone else say, man, I don't ever want to be like that guy. Or someone else, yeah, I'll take this person and that part of what they were, and I'll take that, incorporate that into me. And it's a lifelong learning. And that's what it comes down to. And I decided early on, I grew up in LAPD's area. I love seeing the cops there. They just all seemed like decent, hardworking people. And I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be a decent, hardworking person. Now, I didn't necessarily say I wanted to be in a law enforcement when I was young. In fact, I was leaning toward veterinary school, but I hate to see animals suffer, and I couldn't live through that. So, I just, it's within yourself. You have to find it in you, I guess. And fortunately for me, I made a lot of the right decisions. I made some dumb ones along the way, but, it's your own personal decision-making processes, which leads me back to you again, and what you afford people the opportunity to see and believe.
Future Sheriff Captain Mike Bornman, you may have been a great veterinarian and you do have compassion for animals. We know that. But I have also seen you have compassion for the incarcerated. I have seen you have conversations with the detained individuals, and you are very inspirational for them. I did not know about the projects in Pacoima until very, very recently. But you have said over and over again, just in the short 15 minutes that we've been together right now, education, education, education. And in fact, when I was working with the GOGI campus at the Sheriff's Department, you had education-based incarceration. You are running for sheriff now. How important would the education of the nearly 3,000 detained women, and I don't know how many men in the Sheriff's Department, detainees pre-court, pre-hearing. What does education look like when you're the sheriff? What are you doing inside the jails to prepare these individuals to never come back?
Yeah, it's critically important, and as far as I'm concerned. What I would like to see, and the direction that I would put the department is to create a campus. Most likely, you understand Mira Loma Detention Facility, right? We'll just use that. It's shuttered right now. There's nothing going on. I would like to see it retooled and used as an education campus for the trades. We're talking electrical, plumbing, landscaping, roofing, HVAC installation and repair, cable installation, anything where somebody can get a certification where, we could get work with a school system. What am I thinking? LA Trade Tech, maybe like them. They could come in with their instructors, teach people programs 3, 6, 9 months long, where they could actually get certification and have the ability to get a job. Because one of the things that LA Trade Tech does, they'll also help them with job placement when they get out, right? I think it's critically important for people to take that step and to get a job where you can go make money and take care of yourself and your family and your kids and your folks. But it all comes down to what you do with that training and education. And if people are still stuck in the mode of making poor decisions for themselves, that education is not going to help them. That's why I think, your program segues so perfectly into what needs to be done there.
So, as sheriff, you open Miraloma and you have a trade tech alliance or allegiance or collaboration or some form of education there. And I can guarantee you, GOGI will be there making sure everybody knows their GOGI life tools so that they can get out and keep a job. So, that is, you have my commitment there that we would certainly be there making certain that they have those positive decision-making tools, because all the training in the world, all the money in the world, all the opportunities in the world fall flat if you can't make those split-second positive decisions.
Absolutely. Yep.
What would you like to say to the individual who's sitting in an 8-foot cell on a 2-inch mattress and they're saying, yeah, but he doesn't know my situation? What would you have to say to that individual?
I would say he or she is wrong and are making the wrong assumption. 36 years in law enforcement. I spent about 12 in the custody environment. As you mentioned, I also grew up in some pretty hardscrabble places myself. And I had the opportunity to make good decisions and bad decisions. And I think that what they need to do instead of sitting on that mattress and, playing checkers and working out is to look inside and ask yourself, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Do you want to have a family? Do you want to have self-pride? Do you want to be out and free? Or do you want to sit in that cell and just waste your life away?
So you have, detained individuals going to Miraloma, they're learning HVAC, they're learning all these things. How are you educating your deputies? Because when somebody comes into a department, they come from a very varied background. Some of them beat them ups and that gets them to stop it, or they'll never change. How do you educate your deputies about how to integrate opportunities and positive decision making? How can deputies become kind of mentors or examples?
You have to set the standard for them, right? And be consistent and have the proper leadership and supervision in place. Frankly, that leads me to another area where, we put people through the Sheriff's Academy and we teach them how to be cops, right? We teach them how to drive fast, how to handgun, shotgun, batons, laws of search and seizure, laws of arrest, all that really cool cop stuff you see on TV, and then we throw them in jail for 2 years. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
So what you're saying is they get trained and then they have to work in the jail custody environment, processing people in the jail. Is that what
First. Yeah, what happens is, like if you're on LAPD or other agencies that don't have big jail systems, you'll go right out to patrol. Or in our place, it could be court services or whatever. But the sheriff's department, they teach you all this cop stuff, and then they throw you in a jail, and people are just like, hey, 2 years of this. And what I want to do, frankly, we have an item there called custody assistance, right? Those are our professional correctional officers. I've known a whole bunch of them. They do great jobs. They don't have that, hey, I want to be a cop mindset, right? At least at that point. I would like to flip the number of custody assistants in the jail system to where they're at least 80%, where you'll have them in there knowing that's their career and being able to take a, I don't know, how do you say it, a more peaceful look at what's going on instead of, everybody's in jail, they're all crooks and everything. And, I've met a lot of people in jail and some of them are pretty hardcore, but they watch cop shows. They root for the cops, I know
you're telling me that some of the individuals in custody, some hardcore, they're just watching the cop shows and they're rooting for the cops to win.
Yeah. I mean, it's, people are people. And just because you make some stupid mistakes and you end up in jail doesn't mean that your life has been invalidated. You have to get beyond that. You have to step up, take ownership of yourself and where you're at, and then take steps to better your position. And, as far as the deputies, they will understand pretty quickly, that I'm a pretty hard-nosed guy. I'm a cop's cop, but I also understand that you have people who are in jail who are basically really vulnerable, right? I mean, we take everything from them when they come in, and we give them a jail-made jumpsuit. That's their life. And our people have to understand that I don't play that game of, to make them do what you want, you got to punch them in the face. It doesn't work. And I think that a little humanity and compassion goes a long way in jail.
So
and,
if you,
respect is earned.
Respect is earned. Interesting. So if you increase the number of custody assistants, they have to go through their own training as well, right?
Yeah, they do. In fact, their whole, their academy class is centered around corrections and taking care of people and having the right attitude and all the laws, Title 15 and making sure that the inmates are safe and they're well cared for, right? That's completely different than what deputies get trained. Now, after they graduate, they do go through a custody training, but it's nothing like what the custody assistants get.
So on your custody assistants, I would love to be able to bring some of our formerly incarcerated coaches in when these custody assistants are training. And I would love to have them be a guest speaker at the training so they can better understand the trajectory of, I got arrested for this crime. I was sentenced. I went to prison. I did my time. I got out. And now I'm a GOGI coach volunteering in community. Would you be open to having some of our graduates come and speak at those trainings?
Well, we haven't talked about this, but that's one of the requirements you're going to have, where you're required to have some of your people come in and talk to our classes.
So that's my requirement. Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I'm up for it. I will do that. I will make certain that your custody assistants or
I'm sorry. It just makes everything so much smoother when, you treat people with humanity and respect. And just because somebody's in for some knucklehead crime, it's like, they're people too. And I have found, by and large, if you just talk to them like a human being, you're going to get the same thing back.
Well, I don't know why anybody would want to run for sheriff. I think it's a difficult job. I don't think it's an easy job, but I do think that you would do a phenomenal job as the Los Angeles County Sheriff. And yeah, you've now elected me to be in on the training.
Right. You're stuck.
We will be there. I guarantee you we will be there because we believe in opportunities. We believe in personal responsibility, accountability, and making the right decisions and developing those skill sets. So I think that's exactly where you are when it comes to incarceration and detention. I think you and I think quite a lot alike in that regard.
Yeah, I think so.
Is there any last thing that you'd like to say to our students? And you could pitch yourself for sheriff. I mean, we got a lot of people voting. Please feel free to say why you would make a good LA County sheriff.
Well, I think I just did. I think that what I would tell everybody who's in jail across the country, don't give up hope. Don't think that, you can't ever get out of the cycle you're in, because there are a whole lot of people that have made it through. And a lot of them, you just have to get to that point in your life where you realize that, hey, what I'm doing isn't working, right? And then you have to take steps to make it work. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the first steps that should be taken, I don't want to give you a free plug here, but I will, I think, is the GOGI program, where they can learn about accountability and self-responsibility. And then they would be ready for the jail offered programs, where they can actually go out and get a career, something they can be proud of and not be looking over their shoulders all the time. Because Mike Bornman is going to be a pretty tough sheriff. And he doesn't.
Say, Coach Taylor, they say I'm pretty tough. Nobody wants to cross me. There's a high standard for GOGI.
Yeah.
Our assignments have to be the full 15 pages. The courses have to be done right. Otherwise, we send them back. But what we breed into our GOGI community is excellency, competency, positive decision making. And I think you would be a very difficult sheriff in that you would hold a high standard. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, everybody gets a high standard. My people and the people in custody, right?
Yep.
That's the only way to do it. You have to lead, and that's how you lead.
Well, I appreciate it. And you got my vote. And certainly when people actually ask you the real questions about what you would make as a difference in LA County, I think they would give you the vote as well.
Cool. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain Borman. I will see you at your inauguration for the sheriff.
You're invited.
Thank you much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was so grateful to have Captain Borman on our show today. If you like this, you're going to like all the other podcast videos. So make sure you tune in. Check us out on social, our GOGI Life Tools YouTube, GOGI Life Tools on Instagram, many other places. We'll see you soon.